My name is KF Seetoh. I'm from Makansutra, a little food company out in Singapore, and we're into food halls, food markets, TV shows, we're into publications, and I've also been appointed or tapped to be a consultant for Bourdain's Market in New York. I mean, take out the brands and the geography. Go to a place because the food is good. I mean, Taiwan on its own tastes like nothing if you've never been there. But if you go there and just go out and look for queues, not necessarily in fine dining places, just little food shops and food stalls and their markets. It's exceptional. It's very good. Artisans just making little cakes and meats and seafoods done South Chinese style. It'll blow your brains away. And I've often wondered why Taiwan food shouldn't be as famous as it should be. Street food scene in Taiwan is very influenced by South China, Fujian. Those kind of flavors permeated Taiwan. You find your fried stuff. One of their icons is a shilling, fried chicken. It's like one piece of chicken, boneless, and they batter it, and I don't know what they crumble it, they deep fry it, and they wrap it in a paper, and just eat on the fly. It's so gorgeous, and they have little things like a humble little, almost peasant style food that is so iconic today. A bowl of rice, and they stew pork, belly pork with a little bit of with garlic and spices and some wines and meat chopped and all up, and they put it over that bowl, and you just it is it's still wonder why a dish like this is considered one of their national dishes. You've got simple fare. I mean, they use a lot of flour, a lot of starch, simple dried meats, and it's not always about the technique, but it's about the flavor they put into such things that to just blow you away, just make you remember. You will leave Taiwan knowing what it tastes like once you embrace her true flavors. Well, street food is important to a lot of, not every country. Not every country has street food, but poorer countries where a lot of people had to fend for themselves by bringing out their heritage dish and putting it on a little stove and a table out in the streets. Usually, over the decades or even centuries, have evolved, and their cuisine and those little street dishes are today iconic, and they are like cuisine. Why are they important? Because hey, people eat three times a day, and if I come to your country and eat that dish and understand it and know that this is part of your culture, your flavor, your flavor profile, I leave your country with the ultimate gastronomic souvenir. And it's great to be traveling to places around the world, not just for their temples and mountains and rivers or dances or costumes or languages, but for food as well. Food is culture. So food travel is a very, very big thing today. Ask the millennials, see what they look for online. A lot of people look for food, not just food, but food experiences which are unique to the places that they visit. The World Street Food Congress was something that I felt that I need to do after 20 years of doing TV shows, doing books, running food halls and markets. I realized that it may be dying, it may be vanishing. A lot of old hawkers or street food masters out in the streets have struggled all their lives, and some do very well. They've educated their children, and the children have gone into nice office jobs, and they say, I'm done. I've done my job. My kids are okay now. But they forget that they left a legacy, and that if they walk out into the sunset, a big chunk of that country's culinary culture disappear with them. So I thought, hey, we should create a movement or an event that preserves this culture, not just preservation for the sake of preservation. We should also talk about opportunities. We also talk about how we should professionalize street stalls, which has very suspicious operation models, and make it well, for lack of a better word, sexy for a newer generation to come into. So not just sharing ideas on recipes or techniques with them, but opportunities and it's not just about cooking. We could do food tourism. We could do products. There's education. There's miles of opportunities once we institutionalize this preservation culture. So it's bigger than I believe it is. So we've done the World Street Food Congress for 4 years now. The fourth edition is going to be held this year, 2017 in June. And we're really, really looking forward to expand the conversation and ideas with everybody. What does it mean for street food hawkers to be recognized for Michelin? To some of the hawkers, it's a few million bucks. To some of them, it's like, yeah, it's just another few words on a red colored book. But the fact that Michelin, a century-year-old legend in recognizing food culture, comes down here and recognize hawkers, and they're looking away from wine lists, they're looking away from starch tables and how's everything, ma'am? Culture. They just want to look at the food, and the story and the culture behind the people shows a lot about how food stories need be told today and in future. So it's all about the flavors. The multi-sensory experiences come from the stories behind it. When I bite into that chicken noodle or whatever noodle or rice or roast meats or whatever, I eat into a slice of that person, his country, his culture, his life, and that's very exciting, especially for a new generation of millennials. They look beyond what Michelin says is important when ranking stars for their eateries or chefs. Cook who you are. You may go to the best culinary schools and learn the world's best techniques, but always look back at who you are, where your forefathers came from, and evolve. It may be traditional food. Some new millennials, traditional food. Ugh. But a lot of stuff that we are eating and loving, even so-called street food heritage flavors, have already evolved over the decades and centuries. So move along with your cuisine based on where you came from, because this world doesn't stop turning. So must your evolvement of your food culture. Be progressive, but know where you came from. For the next step, moving ahead, will make sense. You gotta be humble. No, you got to have a very thick skin. You got to ask questions. There's no such thing as a stupid question. There's such a thing as a stupid answer, but there's no such thing as a stupid question. Ask, get involved, learn, watch with your mind, watch with your ears, watch with everything, listen with everything, dive into any culture, even the meek and the simple-minded food vendor on the street has a story. Never leave these kind of stones unturned, because such education is not easily available, not even on the internet. It's doing something you like. I may clock 7 days a week for a month. I'll get tired, but I'll never lose interest, because I'm excited about what I do every day. So your business model and whatever you plan to do must evolve. You must float. You must move with the times. So I'm not just here to blog about something. I can do an event. I can cook. I can train. I can do so many things. And that's what makes my job so 360, and I'm loving it every day. I think a lot of people, it's not one particular person. It's when you come across people who are very one-minded about what they believe, they are very inspirational to me. They are so stubbornly, just one will, one belief, one stand in what they do. And the other story I always like to remind myself is about my late father and his belief in food. Growing up in a simple family, my father, he provided fairly well. We had meats and vegetables and stuff on our table every day. He never really jump into the food with us, 40% of food. He always let us have the best things. And I've seen him eating before. He takes a small piece of Chinese tofu cheese, or called furu or fuyi, and he'll put it's salty and smoky. It's like blue cheese, except it's worse. And he puts a little bit of sugar in there, and he puts a bit of chili powder. He puts a piece of lard crouton on it, and then with that pair of chopsticks, scoop into that creamy tofu cheese, put away his rice, and he'll just push the rice into his mouth. And I thought, my dad is, showing us his humble uh, origins. And it was only much later that I ate what he ate, and I just went through that. I did just that. And when I ate it, my God, my dad is a taste pervert. If you tried that, my God, it's like, why are you gonna eat anything else? It's all about flavor, and where there are rules, break it. And that is the ultimate rule breaking flavor. It's awesome. So I'm very inspired. I let no rules or guidelines stop me from doing whatever I want to do. I think when a younger generation of trained cooks go into a kitchen, they believe they stop learning. Once you believe you have stopped learning, you have stopped learning, you are finished. You must realize that your learning begins on the first day. Every culinary school teaches you how to start. You don't graduate as an end, you graduate as a start, because out there the world changes. What food culture, expectations of a new generation, how food is delivered to you as an experience is changing as I speak. So be very flexible in the way you readapt what you have learnt. Some rules, and all rules are made to be broken, and they are being broken every day. The game changes. So bear that in mind. The way I keep myself challenged and growing is be very, very curious, be very, very thick-skinned, travel a lot, meet a lot of people, people you seemingly don't want to meet them, for they are the ones that will tell you stories that will grow your mind, your horizon will widen, and for in the end, you would have had a great experience here on earth. You would die satisfied. Yeah, been there, done that. Thank you. Take me back, good Lord. Be very, very curious. My food philosophy: eat the food, digest the culture. Never see food as function. See food as a culture, see food as people. That's, to me, food is a form of travel. I find out more about everybody through flavors, and it makes my world smaller. So let food be a joy to you. Never let it be just a meal or function. For all my travel, what's my favorite food city? I'll tell you just before I die, okay? Check back with me. I mean, you can't compare apples and oranges, but for everywhere that I go to, there's something that I like. I like the robust flavors or very creative approaches that restaurants do here in America or in parts of Europe. And I would go down to the street and squat in front of a chicken 65 vendor in India, because I understand that dish and understand how the name came about. And once I do that, I recognize the flavors, and it's associated with the land. Um, I like heritage food that came from motherland nations, China, India, or even maybe Indonesia. That's got, they were fighting for spices in Indonesia 500 years ago. Can you imagine what they were cooking, and how it crossbreeds and became fusion centuries ago. So if you ask me direct dishes, what do I like? A range. I like soups. I like grills. I like noodles. I like barbecues, and I like a whole range. But more and more so, I'm getting to be. I'm already 50 over years young. I like light flavors that has a complex touch to it. Very nice steamed double boiled soups, light stuff that has a very complex flavor, um, yet it's pleasing. I brought operations to Manila because Manila was knocking on our door. So we had been coming up with this model. Firstly, in the food market, the food market space, we represent a whole list of street vendors. You know, we're kind of like their agents in Indonesia, Malaysia, Thailand, many places where I've got many contacts at, and wherever we travel, wherever I want to set up food halls or events or markets, I bring them over. So as long as I know they have the capability to expand and maintain operational consistency, I'm there with them. So Manila, I mean the Filipinos. What's there to discover in the Philippines food and flavors? It's one of those billion-dollar questions because the world knows Philippines, but they don't know a lot about where their food heritage come from. Beyond sisig, adobo, or lechon, I think that's it. But I had the pleasure of visiting different regions in Philippines as part of my research to do the World Street Food Congress, which I'll tell you about later. And by traveling to the regions, only do I know that Manila doesn't have a rich food culture. Everybody's eating in Manila as a form, as a function, as an entertainment. For real culture, it exists out in the provinces from Ilocos to Iloilo, Bacolod to Davao, Pampanga, where Chinese and Spanish food influences permeate, where they cross, where they are distinct, where even traces of Indonesian food come in, and Japanese techniques and ideas enter their flavors profile, and this is so exciting for me. I see a dish, I don't just see its flavor. I always ask, oh, there's this influence from here, and there are local accents in there. So why do I find it fascinating? Because I'm discovering it with the rest of the world. Even some Filipinos that I know don't even know their country's flavors as well as they should.
Good. So anything else we should ask you, or
World Street Food, World Street Food, World Street Food,
what?
World Street Food Congress.
Yeah.
Did I? Yeah.
Yeah, we've talked a little bit about.
We
But,
did, huh?
Tell me, um, maybe.
Oh
you
yeah, I
don't
did,
wanna
I did, I
respond,
did, I
But
did.
I'm trying to think of what we could say about the Philippines. So if we did something there, we could also use this,
Mm.
right? So that's why I wanted to ask you about the
Okay,
Philippines.
come.
But maybe for chefs who've never been to the Philippines from the West, I know you mentioned a lot of dishes, but why should they come? What's there to discover?
For chefs who are looking to expand their mental profile about flavors, you should visit Philippines because it is a big sheet of white paper for you if you don't know. Just go there. 100 million people live in seven over thousand islands down there. There are a lot of things down there that's left to be discovered as I make my travels. And I'll tell you up front, there are a lot of things. Some ideas blew my brains away. So you will see influences that you never thought of. Say, wow, I never thought of this idea. Why do you want to cook a beef stew with one of the most sour fruits uh, in Philippines? So and that dish, it's called kansi. Uh, it is an icon. So ideas like this. So go with an open mind just because you want to explore. Never visit Philippines because their flavors are so unknown. Never visit Philippines believing you know more than you think you do. Really, a lot of people don't. There's a reason why a lot of media, including CNN, says Philippines is the next most exciting culinary destination. The more I travel around Philippines, the more I realize it is so.